This is Roy from Jagwar Twin, and you're hanging out with me and Rob on Front Row Live.
What's up, guys? Rob here, Front Row Live Entertainment. I am hanging out. It's been a minute, but I'm hanging out here with Roy English, the mastermind behind Jagwar Twin. What's up, dude? It's so good to see you again, man.
It's great to see you too, man. It's long overdue.
It really is. It really is. We've both been in this from like the early like punk DIY days, and like now we're here, Hollywood Hills, doing this interview. Just like it's crazy, like what we've kind of gone through and like everything that we've experienced. But for you, musically, you've evolved so much in your music, and like I'm curious, like what that process has been like, kind of discovering yourself as an artist, going through the motions, rediscovering yourself on this new album, 33, and like what that process has been like for you.
I mean, it's been a journey. This album's been years in the making in like every way. But even just making the album itself, it was 2 years, over the course of 2 years, and it really comes out of a lot of like darkness and pain and like feeling very lost in myself at a certain time, and working on being an artist for so long and feeling like, am I crazy? Like, is this ever gonna happen or make it, whatever that means, right? But finding so much like peace within, that's led to peace without, and that's sort of the meaning of 33. The album was made when I was 33, and it's been a journey, but all things that I'm so grateful for. Grateful for the journey, grateful for the long winding path. Yeah.
And like the thing, like we briefly talked about it earlier, and it's like since I first met you and since I heard your original kind of music, like I've always felt like you were a channel, basically a channel, and whatever was coming, you were just kind of releasing it. Like that's how I pictured everything that you've released musically. And when I listen to this new album, like it really gives me that vibe. It's like you are, I don't know, it's like you're taking us into this world where you get to talk about these dark themes that a lot of us also go through, but we don't know how to express it. And you help us kind of go into it and just come out of it feeling better. And it's so insane. Like it gives me chills when I think about it. But like, have you ever thought about that when you're writing your music? Like, have you thought about like how much of an impact you're having on those listeners?
I don't think early on I did it all. I think early on I would just kind of like free my mind, and whatever came out, like it was kind of nonsense to me at the time. And then looking back, it was like, oh, these are pretty cool lyrics. Actually, there's something, it means something to me, and it could mean something else to somebody else. Right. But then sort of over the last, like 10 years doing this, I kind of got into like thinking about it so much, and chasing success, or chasing, because it was almost like survival mode. Like I have to do this, but that didn't create great art at a time, and it got me stuck. And with this album especially, it was kind of going back to that like blank mind and letting whatever needs to come through come through. And there's songs on there that like I don't feel like I wrote. It was like, here's this thing and I've heard artists say that like in the past. I'm like, like okay, maybe, but like it's real. Like when you don't think about it and you just, I don't know, it sounds cheesy maybe, but like open up your heart, like what do I feel, and let it come through. There's something that's so magic about that. And then also seeing like the way that people respond to music, and the way that it can like touch people at a different level than even words, than even language. Like, I call this album kind of like a Trojan horse album, meaning like a song like Happy Face, for instance. It's, we got the Star Tours going by.
That's how you know you've made it. Like you are part of the Star Tour.
But like a song like Happy Face, it's, if I tell you, hey, put on a happy face and everything's okay, and it's to really happy music, it means something totally different.
Right.
But if I put it to this weird kind of twisted, dark clown style music, it means something else that I might not be able to express and articulate in words, but paired with music, the words mean something else. And I think it kind of allows, like that song specifically, and a lot of songs on 33, it allows me to go into those dark places that I know so well. Like I know what it's like to have so much depression and anxiety and darkness that I can't go into the grocery store, or I feel like I can't go into, crippling. But I know that like if I can come out of that, anybody can. And so I call it Trojan horse music because it's like I can deliver like in a dark sounding music a positive message and like hopefully show people the truth of themselves like through that, pull people out.
Right. And that's a cool way to put it, Trojan horse, because you listen to that song, but then you listen to a song like It's Your Time, and all of a sudden, like, you have all this energy, you feel better about yourself, you feel like you're ready to take over the world. Like, it's like, I think that's one of the main reasons why I fell in love with music so early on, because it lets you feel so many different emotions that sometimes, like I said earlier, you don't even know that you're feeling or you're going through. So for you as the artist, writing something so dark like Happy Face and then jumping back to something like It's Your Time, like, what is that vibe like for you in the studio? Because that sounds stressful. Like, it sounds like there's so many emotions coming in all at once, and it's just like draining at the same time. Is that safe to say?
It doesn't feel draining. If anything, it feels like cathartic. Like a song like It's Your Time. I mean, honestly, that one is probably more emotional to sing and maybe was to write than Happy Face in some ways, because it was like really looking at myself from like a bird's eye view and just being like, man, like I'm proud of you. Like I'm proud of what you've come through. I'm proud
Those are
of
hard words to say.
those are sometimes harder than like you can do better, like whatever it is. Um, yeah, but a song like Happy Face, um, I'm singing "Hey, put on that." It's the words I'm singing are all pretty happy, really, but the music's dark. So it's kind of it's an interesting psychological thing, and we kind of played with that when we released Happy Face, because we did the thing where like you had to smile at the camera for 3.5 minutes, and it was the only way you could hear the song. And if you stopped smiling, the AI facial recognition would make the site melt. And the whole time you're watching these dystopian images of the world and all these, whatever was going on politically, and you have to just like hold this smile. But it does something crazy psychologically because the music's dark, but you're saying everything's okay, and you're smiling, but it tricks your brain chemistry into actually feeling happy. So like it's this weird emotion when you're looking at these dystopian images, but then you're feeling happy, and it's playing with those things. The human experience is deep.
I mean, you've always been about that stuff, like the human experience, and like kind of just like digging deeper into your soul than just like what you see on the outside. And like, I don't know, I feel like you've always been about that kind of style.
I've 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 always been about it and curious. I've always been curious and seeking. But I think sometimes when you're seeking, like you there, it's like why are you seeking in the first place? And I think for me it was because like I could feel so much like darkness and anger and just like whatever. Um, and that was important to feel. It was an important part, and I think it's an important part of everyone's journey. Those dark times, you can get stuck in them, but if you can manage to pull yourself out, which everyone can, it's hard. But then like on the other side of that, that's the goal. That's like the hero's journey. You got to go through those dark times.
That's true. And I love that, like, collaboration wise, it's you and Matthew Pauling again. Like, you guys have collaborated for a while since the debut record and probably even before that. But coming into this different tone on this album, it's like you found a new meaning for this record. Like, how did the two of you collaborate, and like how was it also a natural process for him with this new direction, or was it like something that you kind of had to learn from each other once again, like as if it was the first time working together?
Matt and I, our dynamic is nuts. It's like fire. And like meaning like fire. Him and I see the world similarly, but from two totally different perspectives. Like I always say, like the truth is like this sphere. I'm over here, he's over here. We're looking at this thing, but from two totally different angles.
Earth is flat and Earth is round.
Earth is flat and the Earth is round. But what and also like realize through this album, like I was like, I need to understand how this human being he listens to music, and I noticed like, oh, we're listening to songs two totally different ways. Like, some people listen to songs and they're only hearing the guitar, or they're hearing the tone of the guitar, maybe not even the part. And some people just listen to the lyric, or whatever it is. Everyone listens to music differently. But what's so magic about Matt is because we see things so differently. It's like there's dynamic tension sometimes because I'm seeing something, and art is it's you can't articulate it. Like how I hear this thing, can't say to you how I hear it, but like there's so much love and respect also in our relationship that the dynamic tension with love and respect, it creates just something magical. And I mean, I think that's with any relationship, as long as there's love and respect. Like sometimes working with people who are opposite of you is a really good thing. It's not easiest, but it's beautiful.
I'm sure that's difficult too, like, especially when it's like I feel like you dove in more to the experimental side with like sonically on this album. So was this your idea from the beginning, or was this something that the two of you kind of bounced together with this like this chemistry that you guys have in the studio?
It kind of just happened naturally, and we just let things flow. Matt is a master of flow and creating environments that allows me as the artist to flow, or he'll do things like, all right, we're going to jump in the ice bath at 33 degrees for 3 minutes before you do this vocal take. And I'll be in there, and then I come out, my hands are all cramped up, and it's like, but it creates a different feeling. He's great at that. He's a master.
It's just so cool, like, because you listen to this album, and when you guys listen to it September 30th, like, you listen to this album and you do not know what the next song is going to sound like. And I love that so much because you don't put yourself in a box. And like I guess at the same time, going back to like how people listen to music differently, like I guess at the same time, like the different sonic styles, sounds, lyrics, like themes, like I guess it makes you want to focus even more on this album or on the record or on the next track. How did you go about like through this entire writing process and still be able to say like this is a cohesive body of work?
I don't know. I think just because it was coming from a pure, authentic place from both Matt and I, it sounds like our collective soul, and there's a signature to that.
Right.
And I think that's why it does still sound cohesive, even though it goes all over the place, is because of that kind of collective soul.
And I want to dive in and talk about another song that you have a feature on this record with an artist that, thanks to you, I got introduced to, Little Luna, and like she's incredible. You posted about her last year, I want to say, and it was around a time where I really needed something. Like I was in my own dark place, and you posted about her. I checked her out, and I was like, holy shit! Like this is getting me out of my dark place. And like again, this is why I fall in love with music more and more every day. But you introduced me to her, and now she's featured on your album. Pay Attention is the name of the track, and again, it's another sound, another vibe, and it's such a masterpiece as well. Like, dive me into the studio. What was that collaboration like between the two of you? Because I feel like you both just create like masterpieces every time.
Yeah, I mean, Lil Luna is one of my favorite artists. I think she is an important force in the world. Her perspective is just so beautiful. I mean, her and I both are really into learning and growing, and we've both been on our like spiritual journeys, and I'm a big mythology nerd, so I sort of wanted to write like a modern mythology song about like what it is to pay attention, and sort of like our attention being monetized at all times, and it always has been. Um,
It's just more obvious now.
it's just more obvious now. And so I like told her about the song first, like the idea, and she was like, "What?" And she came over to my house, and we just like vibed out, and she kind of played these characters, um, and then we went over to Matt's studio and like really locked it in, and he had this crazy like string arrangement and these horn arrangements. Like at first, I was just doing the horns with my mouth, like. And then Matt's like, hold on, let's get someone to really do this. But it was a great process, and Lil Luna is just such a force.
Yeah. She really is. She really is. And what was like the most like what was the most challenging track that you would say like to either create or record that you had on this record, and why?
Honestly, it was at the moment, I don't know, they're all their different challenges, but online was such a puzzle piece to figure out. Matt and I had the hook,
Okay.
cause you can get it online, and we were just like,
Catchy, by the way.
but it came like we were just messing around, like let's try something really dumb, and then we're like, wait, this is cool, and like everyone loves the internet, cause context is everything. So
Yeah.
me just singing, cause you can get it online, it's like not the same as when it's a choir, and so. We had it just me singing that. I'm like, this is kind of interesting and funny, but like, how can we flip this? So like, what if we did like a choir?
Yeah.
And if the choir is singing it, then all of a sudden there's like this comedic element to it. But then like figuring out the verses and whatever, just it took a minute to like, what do we say? And I had written these verses like a while ago for a different song, with two friends of mine, and they just like fit perfectly into that. And like for the last like especially over COVID times, thinking like there's so much with the internet. Like it's just like I was just thinking about the internet all the time. Like what is this being that we're living inside? And yeah, it kind of came out of that. And it takes so many turns throughout the song.
But it's cool that you mentioned like that whole emotion, that dynamic, because that's exactly why I felt "It's Your Time" was powerful. That whole like "It's your time," I was like, shit, like this just like took me into the song. Like you had a lot of moments like this on this record. Do you have a favorite?
I have two favorites.
Okay.
The first is The Circle.
Okay.
That song is one that like I just feel like was a gift, and I'm so grateful that I get to be the one singing it, because it's like that song existed before I did. It was like that feeling of just like I know this song, but I'd never heard it before, but I know it. Um, and I love that song so much. And then the other one is Another Way to Heaven.
Such a beautiful song too, by the way.
That one is like I wanted to tell a creation story, and I just love the way it turned out.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Like I said earlier, this record is a masterpiece, and like that, what, 3-4 year wait almost between the debut and this, like it was so worth it. Like you needed to take that time to kind of re-explore yourself, to re-explore music and sounds, and just lyrically, your storytelling grows so much on this album. How do you, I guess to close us off, like how do you really go about as far as like becoming a better writer? Because I know you've always been like a book nerd, so to speak. Like, so do you constantly just read, and that's what helps you be more creative with your songwriting, or do you have like other ways of doing so?
I mean, I do read a lot, and making this album, I read more than my whole. I was reading so much. like really nerdy, like hours a day, especially through. I was reading like books a week, but I think a lot of it is like again just like getting out of the way because you can read all these things and have knowledge or stories or whatever, but then like what wants to come through and I think with lyrics it's so much about getting out of the way. Like you put all the inputs in, but then letting it go and sometimes it feels like nonsense when it's coming out and then you kind of make sense of the nonsense and I feel like um, nonsense is the only kind of sense that makes sense that that creates sense.
If you guys don't understand what he's saying, you have to listen to the album. That's basically what he's saying.